Okay, thanks everybody for joining. Today we're going to look at the mapping scope, which we've been working on for some time now, off and on. It's been something that sort of ties off the data flow all the way from design through bidding, inspection, payment certificates, and finally asset management. Now, the tools are still, I would consider beta, but we are willing to work with some people to test it out. You're going to see some of the Builterra product, of course. You'll also see the Builterra mapping extension, which we built to streamline data uploading into Builterra Azure Mapping. So with that, we'll get started. This is sort of the agenda for today. We're I've got some pre-set videos that I'll be showing instead of live. I can do a little bit of live at the end if we have time, but I'm not sure we will. Again, I don't want to turn it into a training video, but there is a lot of detail here. So hopefully, I'm assuming people understand a little bit about Civil 3D and Map 3D and object data, etc. So it's kind of a GIS crash course for civil engineers. Um, A little bit about us. We've been around for now 11 years doing contract admin, software as a service. So that's the Builterra product. We're also producing the Land Project Toolkit and helping distribute the Civil Essentials Toolkit. So lots of Civil 3D programming going on here in order to support civil engineers like yourself and hopefully connect Builterra to those designs. We have expanded the platform over the years to include everything we need for construction management. So we won't be talking about that very much today. We might very quickly talk about documents and tasks at the end, because those are items that we'll be looking to connect to these assets. The mobile app is a purpose-built data collection tool. And for this presentation, we will discuss mobile inspection, but we won't be showing the app at all. The mobile app probably is a part 2 to this session. And it's currently, again, in beta, where we can select assets from the map, edit asset data, etc. So that sort of deserves its own full hour. And so we'll skip over that for now. And today we'll just look at the introduction and how to get data up into Builterra. Just in case you're interested, we deal with over 40 municipal clients and a lot of engineers, big and small. So this demo today is actually specifically for land development, mostly because it's it's a nice looking mapping solution for all of those bid table or schedule unit prices items. So we previously released a product that called Design Connect to help out land development customers, but it was a little too far away from CAD to Builterra. You couldn't really see in between. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. The new mapping scope, like I said, it's pretty much an entire product. You need Builterra to use it. So Builterra Pro is the license. It's a full-blown mapping solution with imports going from Esri shapefiles, land XML, even ortho images can be uploaded. We have a good Excel editing on the system, and our latest sort of update was the direct from asset table to bid table. So we'll take a look at that real quick at the end. Again, the mapping mobile app features will be looked at some other time, probably in another month. But again, they'll be connected to these mapping features. So we were talking about this a minute ago. This is the process we started 11 years ago. And, starting off in Civil 3D, moving data all the way into the bid, mobile inspection for, anything from site visits to contract quantities into the payment certificate, and then ultimately an as-built package. So this is sort of the mapping scope part of it. And we're connecting these two dots. So we looked at digital submissions, we've been talking about it for 30 years. This really is, I think, the closest thing you're going to get to your design assets being a direct path to the as-built. Mostly because those same assets are being used for many, many processes here. So we can go direct to that. In order to build the bid, we'll be able to inspect those assets or bid items and ultimately get progress for those items in the mapping environment. So this is where it's going. You'll be able to click on a button and see your progress complete on any one of these items. Okay, ultimately the closeout package, we're still working on that. That is going to be essentially a complete closeout of every shapefile and all of the attached inspection data to the assets. So this would be a zip file that can go to the public owner or even your own GIS people. The value proposition really for me was being able to see the design in the Azure map. Like I said, part of the issue with Design Connect, the concept of uploading Civil 3D object data directly to the bid, was we didn't really know, or we couldn't tell for sure if every single item was uploaded. Did we miss something? Did the selection screw something up? So for us, this is a sort of an in-between step that I think people will appreciate. You'll be able to visualize everything that comes from your design drawings into the map. The interesting part is that we can share that Azure map with the whole team. So project managers as a viewer can look at the map. They can even make comments or assign tasks. So there's lots of collaboration that could start happening outside of the CAD environment. So if the CAD designers were putting this as part of their regular process, the project managers would have a live map essentially of the project. The other thing is we were talking about the BIM ISO 19650. This is a standard that we probably don't talk about very much here in Canada, but it really is about centralizing the entire project data set, everything from pre-construction data, construction, post-construction. So Builterra is really a great solution for that. And now that we've added the asset data directly, it means multiple people can submit data to the same asset table in different drawings. So you could have 6 people working on a corridor design, all uploading various aspects of that design. Could be pipe networks, feature lines, whatever. So that's kind of how we're supporting this. And I think, again, that would probably require another full webinar just to talk about that. Now, again, this is sort of how we start off. If you've already got Builterra, then this is already available to you. You can start playing with it. If you don't have it, then you can just watch and see how this is set up. Essentially, when you log in with your email, for those who don't know, you'll get your list of projects here, and you can look up the projects on a map or whatever. The first thing you'll do is click on the account, and that's how you get under the hood here. This is where you can start configuring the asset layers for your company. So under Layer Manager now, so you'll see that if you're a Builterra user, it's available today, and it works very well. This has been around for about 6 months now. And so the concept is we set up sort of a template. So when you're doing a project, you don't have to keep rebuilding layers every time. You can just import these templates, say for a subdivision or a site plan or a road reconstruction. Very similar to the bid template concept. So when you build out these templates, now this is showing groups and the actual layer template. It's really just a list of attributes, by the way. The important thing to note here is what type of assets. So that's the very first thing you got to keep an eye on, is we have points, polylines, and polygons. The polyline essentially can be a line, a feature line. It could be a feature line even. So there's lots of different definitions of these things in CAD, but GIS sees it as three different things. And so when we show you the CAD extraction tool, you'll see what we're talking about. So of course, polygon is just a closed polyline. So it's, again, very GIS in nature. You have to specify that. And when you get into the attributes, this is where you get to say what you want to see in the drawing. These are your attributes that you can apply to the layer. And of course, these look very familiar. These look like Civil 3D object layers for a storm sewer. And so you can extract direct from Civil 3D, which we'll see in a second. And you can populate these asset tables in, a few seconds. So if you add the asset here, that's great. You can even add your own asset that is non-CAD related. So it could be the contractor, or it could be, was this in rock or not, or maybe some kind of a permit number or whatever. So this is independent of the actual CAD drawing. You can add as many assets as you want. The style is very just really a thematic mapping style for that particular manhole. We do have some better stylization, but this is out of box. What you see is the style. You can make it a square, or triangle, whatever. The next thing is, there we go. Oh yeah, so we have different styles. I wasn't aware of that. So we have a polyline, which of course thickness and line type would be of interest, color. The polygon, you'd see more like the line and then the fill color. So depending on what type of object it is, in this case a parcel, you'll have a different styling UI here. Okay. Properties is something that was recommended to us from a client. And this is sort of an overreaching set of properties that have nothing to do with the item itself, but more like the entire layer. So when you do a closeout package, these would be common assets, asset values for the entire layer that get attached to the individual items when you export a shapefile. So this is kind of an expansion to the attributes above just the item itself. Again, pretty unique. I don't know if anybody's doing something like that. So basically, you have templates and then you have a whole list of styles. So instead of redefining the colors every single time, you can put together, all these themes for different things. And this will come in handy when you're using the mobile app. When you're creating an asset layer in the mobile app, you can just say it's a gas line and it'll know to use the gas line style. So things of that nature. So it comes in more handy with the mobile system. So essentially you'll set up some color theming for every layer you have. And then you'll simply apply it to the style here. So I've gone back to the template itself and I've just picked now storm here, and it'll use this. It won't care about that. So it's an override. Okay. Now this is how we do thematic mapping. Currently it's using lookup list values for the thematics. So if you have a value in your asset table that you want to pick from a list, you can choose that as a theme for the map. So of course this is an easy one. You've got all of the parcels with different colors, and so this is what I can attach to that parcels layer. Okay, there it is. And so how do you do that? And I don't want to turn this in completely a training session, but I think it's important to see. which is when you grab the parcels layer now, you can put in a list. That was the lot types lookup that we just saw. And now that we've applied a list to it called type, we can theme on that. And what that does is it'll override here. So if I use this type here as my theming, it will use those lookup properties. So it's a little bit of training may be required, but once you get used to it, it's pretty straightforward. All right. Now this is sort of one more step advanced, which is SVG icons is a system list. In other words, every account will have one. It's a single list that, I mean, we can probably provide this to you. It's just really a text file. But the idea is you can create SVG files in a graphical editor like Adobe or something like that. And it really creates a vector file. And again, it's a little complicated, but you can get crazy like evergreen trees and lamp posts. And whatever you can do in Adobe, you can paste it into here and give it a name of evergreen tree. So if you use a style selection of evergreen tree for your asset, it'll look like a tree. So we'll see a little bit of that in video. Okay, so as you can see, we sort of progressed to a more complicated theming here. All right, the water apps, again, if we look at that, how that's done, we're using the SVG icons list. In other words, we're going to fully stylize these water pertinences using, say, hydrants, valves, chambers, etc. So that's the way we do it. Okay, so we're doing okay for time. Yeah, and of course there it is there. We're using that type. Okay, so the other thing is grouping. I like the idea of grouping, so property, storm, sanitary. So this is basically you're applying a group, and then this is literally just a container, and then you're putting these layers into it. So it's just an organizational feature. Now that you know exactly how to set it up, it's like I said, we can do one-on-one and walk through it. Trust me, I've been doing this quite a bit over the last few weeks preparing. So it's working really well, and we can get you started pretty quickly. The AutoCAD Civil 3D Mapping Toolkit is something that was built, it has its own installer. So you can install this. You have to log in, so it does require a license. It uses internet-based licensing. Just through the Builterra site, if you have a role that supports the CAD licensing, okay. The other thing we've added is some handy, I'll call it 40-year-old ADE commands. Now, they're still available in Civil 3D as very, they haven't changed it a bit. So ADE produces the object data that we're using in some of these asset tables. So Map3D had some, maybe a few tools here: create, attach, run, map clean, import, and export. So these, I guess, call it 5 tools, are literally just calling Map3D, and they're critical to adding that object data that you need. The rest of the tools, they are growing, by the way, but this is the current list. These are just handy tools to augment some of these assets, basically populating data quickly. The other thing is we've done these types of tools, and this is a progression of how we were building the tool. So these 4 tools are available now. Okay, so step 1, we got to define the asset layers for the publish, or export. So this define asset layers is really your very first step here. It's just that's the number 1 right there. And so what it does is it launches this interface. Now it looks complicated, but if you read through it, essentially you are creating an XML file and an export folder, because we are still exporting to shape if you want. We left that in there. And essentially you're building out a list of things that you want to send off to Builterra. And so this is something easy. It's a hydrant. You just type in hydrant. It's a point object type or a GIS type, and it's a block. Okay. Now this particular block has attributes. So basically, this is what you do. You pick the hydrant, and then you add the new asset, and of course, it adds it to the list. So these are saved lists that you can, if you have a really good CAD standard, then this really works out well because you can apply it to every project. Okay, so this is just some management tools. And so this is an example of a point. Okay, of course, you can have any kind of point, even a Pogo point or whatever. This is sort of a video on how to define it, and we'll watch the time. I cut these videos without thinking about how long the presentation might be. So in this particular case, I'm loading an existing XML file, and you can see those already defined items here. In this case, I'm going to create a brand new one. This is the hydrant that we just saw, and it is a point type, and you can pick it. Now you can use things like circle, an actual point. I mean, there's many things that are points. So it depends on what you pick, and it'll accept it as a point. So you can send these or save these to the XML file, and there it is. So those can be used now as asset attributes. Okay. The biggest thing you have to do is make sure you have a matching asset table in Builterra. So then it'll just match the asset name, asset attribute name. So that's essentially as easy as that. So you can go through your drawings, start off small and build up. Of course, there we go. The polyline with no data, this would be something easy, just, some backdrop to the project. This is, a development limit. This might be handy to show. Again, load up that prefab XML file, and literally you're going to define this, and it has no attributes whatsoever. So you don't have to have a very complicated system just to play around with it. You can just start uploading, polylines, and that's it. So now we've added a development limit, and we're ready to go. Right? Of course, polygons. I'm just kind of walking through this because you might want to play with that. So the parcels, of course, are polygons, and they do have lot data, some attribute data. Okay, and so these polygons. This is the last of this setup video here. I think you're probably getting how to do this. It's a very repetitive process. Once you get good at it, you can probably do your whole CAD standard. And you're not going to want everything, just the good stuff, just the assets. So think about how you're going to use this. Is it going to be imported to a bid? Is it going to be exported to maybe the public owner? So consider why we're doing this. Okay, so that's how you do the parcels. All right. Now, if you click on here, I'll just show it. Export to shapefiles is basically, if you're interested, you can select all and then export to shapefile. And literally, it creates the shapefiles, all of them, in not even a minute. It takes about 10 seconds. So it's so much faster than Map3D. I don't know why. And we're using a different tool, probably. And so we'll just play that video. I think I have that actually. So when I just want to make sure you know that. In other words, maybe you just want to create shapefiles. Maybe this has nothing to do with Builterra. This is how we tested the program to start with. So we did use shapefiles. So now when we're exporting it, that's live. That did not. I did not stop the video. It does it all. That's it right there. And all of the AutoCAD ones anyway. The Civil 3D ones are just as fast. Okay. Um, and all right, so this is the pipe network. Let's take a look at that one. So in Civil 3D, I've split up the two XMLs just so for clarity. We have alignments, we could have feature lines, we could even have uh, COGO points. So I've shown grading plans in the map, really whatever you need. And then, so you get the idea is we're using the actual object now as the query, and now it's producing the uh, essentially the shapefiles for your entire pipe network. This is just a little test. I do this a lot, by the way. I'll test it and I'll just bring in one of the shapefiles using Civil 3D, and I'll test to make sure that the data did actually get created. So just like that, it brought in some sanitary data, and there it is right there. So that's essentially what we're exporting. So we've taken all the good stuff out of the object. We can add to that list if you need other things, but essentially that's it. And we'll throw in a manhole just for fun. So these videos were done just to sort of prove that it's working out of box for any shapefile requirement. Okay. And this came in as just an old AutoCAD point, so we'll just display it that way. Very good. So there it is. So that's your manhole, and you could put a block on that, but this is just the test here. All right. Okay. And so in the next, oh, I'm just right here. There you go. Okay. Yeah. So the other thing is part of the menu system now, these tools were part of the concept of what if I had a whole set of drawings and every Friday I want to upload it, create shape files. This was sort of an idea. We haven't hooked it up to direct to Builterra yet, but essentially you could build up a drawing list and literally export. It will open at each drawing in memory and run through and export to shapefile. So this is sort of I always love to do things in batch mode. So this is just to be, that killer app. You could upload 20 drawings, all with different design types in them. This was, again, something we were working on just to make sure we could do every kind of Civil 3D object. It was, again, we left these into the product because they're pretty handy on their own. And so as we tested it with each object type, um, we ensured that we were getting that data. So that's the number one. Okay, so that tool is also in the menu. Right there's the objects that we support right now. Now, feature lines is an interesting one. If you do the auto corridor feature line, in other words, the linked feature line, it will accept it. So you can actually produce a corridor feature line, line work in the Builterra map. If you had it, it'll use a feature line. Okay. I think we're doing okay. I'm kind of flying through this, but that's how I roll. All of my webinars are packed 0 to 60. So the project mapping setup is kind of important. One of the good things about Builterra, it's not just some, fluffy Azure mapping tool with doesn't know what a survey is. So the concept is that we know we're getting data from the CAD drawing, and in most cases, it's going to be some coordinate system. It's not going to be lat long. Like it will be, it'll translate to lat long, but it's not, when you're doing grading, it'll have an XYZ. So the best thing you can do here is when you pick on the project, well, first of all, put it in the right area. That helps. Okay. Using the map setting. I mean, that gets you in the ballpark. And then the biggest thing is the projection here. Now, I didn't keep all the slides in of how to assign all kinds of projections, but there is a way you can have your own state planes and all kinds of different projections that Builterra supports. You have to build your own projection list. But basically, this is super important. Otherwise, if you're importing the data from Civil 3D, it will have to be lat long. So if it's not lat long, then you got to put this in. Okay, there it is. Now, building up the mapping scope. So, of course, we were testing a fair amount this week and getting into all kinds of trouble. And this is kind of where we're at. When you first look at the product, there's no mapping layers at all. It's probably even empty. Um, so it's basically nothing. How do I start? Well, first of all, you'd have to set up all of your asset templates, even if just a few to get started. You can add more later. It's not like a one-shot thing. Um, you can click on the Add Layer button here, and it'll pop up here. You can do an individual layer, which is really just your own. You can type in just ad hoc, or you can select multiple, and this really is your template that we just talked about. So that's what I'm saying. If you have a company standard, you can set up that template with all the right asset types, stylizations, everything. So then you simply hit create. And when you create it, obviously it's going to import them all. So I'm just looking for a project here to show you how that works. Okay, so yeah, so mapping is completely empty before you start. Okay, and there it is. So you can go to the multiple, and here's your template. And of course, I actually found it easier to revise the template and then go back to mapping and add one layer versus just adding a single to the drawing. So anyway, these are little details. So yeah, you can just pick them all and bring all those layers in just like that. Okay. Now, of course, they're all going to be empty, of course. They have no data, but they have little containers for you to populate now. So now the mapping is ready to go, and I've refreshed, and here it is. So you've got a little grouping, and under each group is the layer. And you can see just by looking at that how we've got points, we've got polylines, we've got polygons. Yeah, so we can start populating that with all of this data now from either shapefile or direct from Civil 3D. All right, empty layers, good. Okay, layer review, I think we did that, good. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so shapefile import. Part of it is, this is when we first started, we made it do shapefiles first. Then we use land XML. So we're supporting both. That was what we did, a file-based import. So it was sort of very static. We'd upload and that's it. So what happens here is you can map the shapefile, whatever's in the shapefile, with the properties that you had set. So sometimes you only need, half a dozen attributes, but the shapefile has, 50 attributes. So you'd have to pick through, this is what believe it or not, this is what I have in my table. And this is what the shapefile has here in the lookup list. So, okay. And if there's a matching attribute, it'll just match it. Okay. And then when you import it, you should see the results and they should be stylized. If they're not stylized to your liking, you can fix it. And I've got lots of video to show you how to do that. Mostly because I cut video before I built my template out. So my bad. Okay, so basically the import to shape works really well. The XML gives you alignments, pipe networks, and I believe Kogo points. I'd have to check that. Okay. Polish Builterra. So this is where we really wanted to get to. This is sort of the dream to be able to work in CAD. And at the end of the day, hit a button and everything's in Builterra. Then people can look at it. They can start building bids with it, whatever. So it's supposed to be that straightforward. I think it is, once you get everything set up, of course. So step two, we have this new publish CAD assets to Builterra. And essentially what it does is it reads that asset file, that XML file that we originally built back with the define asset layers. So define asset layers does shapefiles, no problem. Export to Civil 3D to shape, yeah. Batch export, yeah. Now we have publish. So this is using the same XML file that you had built previously. So if we do something simple like the development limits, you can sort of see how that works now. So remember, we put it in the XML file as a polyline. And so what you see here is the XML file is loaded with the asset name, what type it is, because it's got to make sure this type matches Builterra. If it doesn't, it'll tell you it doesn't match. The location is really just a string indicator. Typically, like we're literally storing the layer ID, but that wouldn't mean anything to anybody. So we're just going to giving it a description here. And then it's doing a selection set. So you can take a look here and say, okay, well, we have 36 parcels. We have, 10 hydrants. So pretty quickly, you can see if the selection set is working. And if you get a bunch of zeros, then you know you're in the wrong drawing. So if we continue on with the video, we can just pick these two layers, they're polyline layers, and just hit the button. So that's what I was kind of hoping, at the end of the day, you could click on a button and it would republish the data. Now, before you ask, the syncing isn't there yet, but that's just a detail. We will be syncing, like new, deleted, updated. That's coming, but currently it's just a one-way trip. And there it is. There's your development limits. If you want to label it, you can label it any which way you want using attribute or just a piece of text. And that's it. Now these are just sort of vector labels from Azure. It's good for utility plans, stuff like that. Okay, so that took 10 seconds to upload those limits in the right coordinate system. And so we'll just kind of walk through what this project looks like. So the road granulars, this is a separate drawing that I built specifically for quantities. It's really just polygons and for sidewalk, asphalt, granulars. So I actually made an entire new XML file just for that. And I've already mapped where it's going to go. And you just select all and publish. So this is exactly what I wanted, 6 months, a year ago. And we've got it today. I don't know if it really exists on the market. Going to Esri, I suppose you can export it. I've seen those options. But, once it's in Builterra, you can do something. You can start hooking this up to the bids. You can start visualizing it on your mobile app. You can start editing assets for as-builts. Okay, and you don't have to have a GIS person to manage it. So there it is. That's the results of these granulars. Now I probably need some more fields on that, but again, this is sort of as you get better, you start adding more and more details, stylization, etc. And so you can just take a look at this, and there, I'm just adding that to the pop-up because I want to be able to see that tooltip when I click on that asphalt, okay, or the granular. There it is. So now I have a little tooltip with a total area, and I can edit that if I need to. So you can see if you're editing on screen how we could sync back to CAD maybe in a little while. That'd be pretty cool. Okay, so this is the granulars piece. I think we're getting that. Now, of course, I like to why not do everything? So because we've set it all up already, these are what we'll call AutoCAD layers. These are blocks, polygons, polylines, lines. So of course, you should be able to just select all. And if we just stop that for a second, you can see the trees. I didn't hook those up yet, right there. So we can, I'll show you how to do that in a second. But basically, that tells me that 33 trees will not be published because I didn't tell them where to go yet. Okay. And so everything else like parcels, right away, servicing. So all of that's going to start publishing here. And you start building that map. Yeah. Okay. So clicking on the button, it will go through and publish. Again, keep an eye on the selection set. If you got 0, you won't see anything, of course, in the map. Okay, so that's the other thing it does for polylines is if you've got polylines for curves, it'll segment them automatically based on this interval distance right here. That's how it knows how to segment curves. Okay, and there it is. Okay, so now it's in Builterra. We can go ahead and take a look by refreshing the screen because it is a website, and it should show the results here of all of the other items that I wanted to show. That you can see the lot grading quite plainly here, or the lot parcels, building aprons, you know. Yeah, so lots of tooltips now available to you. And of course, anybody with a view access, which is free, if they have an email, they can log in and take a look at this map. Okay, you only have to pay if you're a CAD person. So now I'm applying the lot stylization to this. This is going to do the coloring and see based on the type of lot now, it's coloring those lots like that. Okay, so we're getting into various theming now. Okay, now you have to watch the draw order because the pavement will override, you know, the sewers and the water. So you have to keep the layers and the visualization. It takes a little bit of time to make sure it all looks good. Right. The trees was an interesting one. Circles can be considered points. In other words, I wanted to make sure if you're doing a tree as a circle, it can be used as a point. Same thing with a block, it can be used as a point, of course. And this one is where we're attaching, we've already attached object data, kind of like the tree type. You know, we could put in lat names and all those other things, but essentially, this is where we're now connecting the trees with the landscape layer. Okay, this is what you have to do. You have to select it, select the location in the Builterra map, and there it is. Good. And we're ready to go. It saves it automatically, by the way. You don't have to hit save here. So we're just selecting those 2 tree layers. And now we're exporting 74 trees. Okay, so now you can see right away, I've done something here. You can see the styles here. That looks like an SVG file here and here. So I've already preset the SVG stylization for trees. And the keyword here is deciduous tree or evergreen tree. And so when you zoom in, it's using those SVG styles here. Now, the attribute data is a bit weak, but you can get the point here. All right. And of course, all of this can go into your bid. We'll see that in a second. Now, I wish I had more video, but I kind of ran out of time, quite honestly. The pipe network is the exciting one. It's the low-hanging fruit. I guess I kept it to the end. But the pipe network has so much data. It's rich with property data. It's the easiest one to populate for a bid. And this is so much easier than Design Connect because remember Design Connect, you had to kind of hope and pray that it caught everything. And then it went into the bid and you had no idea if it was actually catching everything. You know, half your catch basins could have been exploded or something. So, so in here you can actually see, okay, this is the selection Now I'm going to push it in and export it. Yeah. Yeah. There it is. Okay. And yeah, so it's going to go. Now this is a fairly small job, but really all it's doing is uploading a text file. And there it is. So now we're seeing behind that asphalt, which isn't great. We'll turn that off. Oh, yeah. Sometimes it takes a double click there. So you can see now we've got all of our data here for all of the pipes. Catch basins have been stylized. The storm and sand have been stylized as filled and not filled. Even the hydrants are there. We did rotation still seems to be a challenge for us. We have it working for the rotation of the block or object, but this doesn't show it, so I apologize for that. So again, tooltips can be added at the template stage, but I wanted to show you how you could do it just on the fly. If you just type in the word, the name of the attribute, you can then stylize or at least label these items, right? So you can see now. I mean, you might want to reduce this material name there, but that's basically it. Things like the name, the structure name, those are nice to see on the drawing. So you can imagine if you're a project manager, you can visualize what your CAD people are working on. Amazing. Imagine if you had 10 people working on a large rail job. Amazing. I get excited about this stuff because um, otherwise you're opening up AutoCAD or Civil 3D and you're expecting somebody to know how to use it, to view it. Or you're using a PDF viewer and it's not live, it's 2 weeks old. So many advantages I don't think we even know yet of having a linked design. And it has nothing to do with all the construction stuff yet, other than tenders, which I'll show you in a second. So now we have everything uploaded, all of your pipe networks, water mains, everything. The asset linking is now we can now start doing something with these assets. And this is the big one, which is building out a bid table. Now this is very much a beta. We're still testing. But basically when you select the asset table now, it has the ability to link the bid. So this is your bid tab. So if we just stop that for a second, you can see this data here is from tenders right here. Now, if you're American, we call them tenders, but basically, Canadians call them tenders. You'll see the word bids. But basically now it's looking at all these bid tab sections and we're very specifically saying we want to take all these assets and populate the storm sewers table. There it is. Now, if you were better planning than me, all of your asset data, you'd have a matching pay item for it. In this particular case, I don't exactly have that, but you'd want to sort of spend some time making sure the pay item tables match the asset tables. Okay. Right. And I forgot to put depth in here, so we have to apologize for that. So once you submit that, basically we can go to the tender itself. And this is I set one up brand new. If we just back that off a bit here. Yeah, so when you click on tenders, there's add new tender. I have a video, but I didn't get to show it. Basically, you can click on the bid tab editor. Now you can see right there. So this is the asset data that came in from Civil 3D from the map. And so that's what I'm saying is if you have a nice visual of that you can actually see here now all of the quantity data. Okay. And now the idea here is when you click on cost estimate, you might have to hit reset and let it tick away for maybe 20 seconds or more, but it's going to look at old bid data and match out. In this case, it's strictly using the material type and the size. You can see the average depth is 0. It's because I forgot to add that to my asset table upload. So we'll get that fixed. But essentially, the unit cost is coming from all that historical data. If you want to find out where it's coming from, you can click on details and it'll show you all the projects that had that 750. Okay, so that's the most compelling value right there, is to build the bid tabs. And you can start looking at attached data like inspection data. If we take a look at that, there's a little attachments option right here. And you can attach inspections or documents. And then actually we just added a new one for a bid item. So that's, I didn't get that up there. So you can attach any document. So you can literally attach any documents that are in the system to an asset. So this could be good for your closeout package. Maybe you want to attach a contract to, or a shop drawing or something to a manhole or whatever, hydrant. So again, it's all for the closeout now. You're looking to have one package. So you can pick on this and pick any documents and attach it. You can also link an inspection. So you could pick a daily site visit specifically and do it. So this is going to be taken care of now, because once you link it to the bid, the daily site visit, if it uses bid items, it knows what assets it's coming from. So this will be redundant because the inspections will already be listed for the asset. It's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, where you can attach external documents as well. You can overlay inspection data and photos and tasks onto the map. So you don't have to do anything. You just turn on the toggle. So all of these little pointers here are all little photos or inspections, right? And so you don't have to go to your inspections portal. You can just go to the map and view any report you want, any photo right there. So every photo is selected, comes out automatically into the map. When you select on this daily report here, you can download it or actually go right to the inspection itself. It'll link to it. Thank you very much, Chad, if you're on the call. Sorry I had to use your data because I ran out of time. So we've been working with WSP on this. Linking photos, of course, that's part of the daily. So it's all one big relational database. Adding tasks could be important to you. You can click on a button that will add a single task and you can assign it to somebody. So get soil sample, that's the task. And it'll show up as a sort of a orange button here where they need to get the soil sample. And that task will come out on the mobile phone. Yeah, so if you click on task, of course, you'll see that now created for that person. And so that is the mapping product, and we're right on time, 3:54. I will post the video for you guys because I went pretty quick. Now I have some questions here. Yeah, okay, so Chad Qualley, are the exports 3D? Interesting. Yes, so the start invert and end invert are just properties of the pipe. So you can put any data in the asset table. And Z grading, anything with 3D, you can add to that attribute, that asset. And as you can see, your mind starts to think about 3D. And now that we have 3D data, next step, let's look at an IFC 3D. So I didn't want to say that, but that's where we're going, right? You want to be able to look at the mapping and say, something, let's export it as an IFC. now we're into the BIM world, right? So that'll be another year probably. But anyway, this is what we got today. It's awesome. And if you want to participate in testing the beta, just email me or Andrew on the call, and we can get you set up, and you can test it with your current account. If you don't have Builterra, then obviously we can do a meeting and figure out how you can get it. And yeah, that's it. If you don't have any other questions in the chat, have a good afternoon.